On this episode of IT Unplugged, we sit down with Ben Kvalo of Midwest Games, where he tells us that video games can actually make you live longer.
At M2 Technology, we're on a mission to make IT accessible to everyone. Join us on our journey to demystify the ever-evolving world of business technology. Are you ready to get unplugged?
Welcome back to IT Unplugged. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Ben.
Ben, I'm very excited that you're here. I'd say you're a different kind of guest because we might not be talking about cybersecurity the entire day, but you just have such an interesting background and story, and we just want to highlight it, especially being a company that's local to Green Bay. So I'm just kind of curious because a lot of IT professionals, which we are, have this really affinity towards gaming. So I'm just curious, what kind of got you into, into gaming? I would assume maybe not, as a game publisher. But then, you've also worked at places like 2K and Blizzard. So how did that become a thing?
I mean, completely randomly, to be honest. Ultimately, when I was growing up, just like so many of us, my mother gave me a Nintendo when I was I want to say 5. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I've wanted to play everything I possibly could, from RPGs to strategy games to sports games to just absolutely everything. And so I just had that love for games. Never imagined I could do a career in it. Mm-hmm. That was not the goal. I went to college to go into sports management, which is why I came to Green Bay. I figured proximity to the Packers would give me a better chance.
Smart.
Of going into it. Didn't help. But ultimately, that was kind of the original pathway, was to try to go into that. But what it really was entertainment. Mm-hmm. And video games is entertainment. And so it started me down that path. And then what happened was, UW Green Bay was the only UW school without a radio station.
Sure.
And so I helped to start up the radio station at UW Green Bay, got into kind of a further entertainment, ran that for about 3.5 years in college, went into radio after college, hated it. Mm-hmm. It was terrible because it was like the death. It was like the opposite of it. like podcasts and everything has replaced that
Sure.
whole world of things. But it was like at the death point. It was just going downhill. And then my first job, I was selling air.
Oh yeah,
quite literally.
Tough.
It was just awful. And so I was like, what do I really want to do? And my capstone course at UW Green Bay had been an M&A course. And we happened to choose a video game publisher. And with that publisher, we had to acquire another company. And so we chose Activision, and we acquired Mad Catz for peripherals and all that kind of stuff.
I remember those.
So that was like a fun exercise of doing that, but it also made me more aware of the business of video games. And I was a business administration major, emphasis in management, minor in communications. And that became kind of the jumping board to be like, wait, this could be a career path. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate to connect with a recruiter at 2K on LinkedIn, and we ended up getting an interview, and I got hired as an operations coordinator. So started kind of low-level operations, but I was the only operations person that wasn't an executive in the company. 2K was really small at the time, was kind of an upstart, was just starting with Borderlands and BioShock.
Sure.
And they had acquired Firaxis, so Civilization and XCOM. We brought back XCOM. Mm-hmm. Mafia, and then NBA 2K grew into this huge thing.
I was going to say, it's weird to think of 2K as a startup. You're bringing this back. I'm like, wait, 2K, a startup?
Well, so 2K was born off of the kind of the success of Rockstar. Mm-hmm. So Take-Two is an ownership company. They own Rockstar. They had a bunch of IP that Rockstar wasn't going to develop. They were focused on GTA, and Red Dead, and many other franchises. And so they wanted to essentially expand upon that. So they built 2K as a way to take a bunch of other IPs that they had ownership around and start to make games off of them. It also happened to be that the Sega 2K series had kind of died off, and so they bought all the rights to that and brought it into the company, and then called the company 2K. Mm-hmm. And so it was a startup-y type of atmosphere. I was getting to build things. I helped to build the core technical group of the company to support all the developers around the world. And then I moved into the marketing side of things, helped to reorg the global marketing organization. I spent time living in London, Paris, Madrid, Munich, Amsterdam, Singapore. And so I was kind of all over the place. And so that led the pathway into games.
Can I just ask, okay, so how old are you at this point when you were doing this?
When I was doing this, I was, it was from age 24 to 28, 29.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering where your headspace is that you're going to be able to do all these kind of just crazy things at this age even, and just the experience in general, because I was a high school teacher for 5 years, and you always remember your teachers going or parents saying you can't play video games, you can't make a career out of it.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing as a teacher, it was oh wait, no, we actually now have a gaming club, and you can get a scholarship from it, so you can't say that anymore. Yeah. But you're getting to this point where it's that's a real thing that's happening. Yeah. So is it surreal, or is it just we're working now? What is it? What was it kind of?
No, it was absolutely surreal. I still have such an affinity to 2K because it feels like such an identity of mine, because I latched on to being able to do this thing, being able to work on Borderlands 2 blew up into this huge thing, and NBA 2K became the center of the sports universe for a long time. And so it's so much of who I am as a person, and being able to work across, because I like variety. And so the great thing about my job was these are all games I would play normally as well. And so it was surreal. It was truly how did I get this lucky to be it? And coming back to Wisconsin, I would come talk at UW Green Bay or my mom's high school, because my mom was a high school principal.
Sure.
And everyone was whoa, video, I was a small town celebrity in a way. And so it was really just fun to come back, because I had found this unique pathway, and there's not many, at least what I perceived was not many folks from Wisconsin that had gone and done that. But reality, there are actually quite a few. I happened to cross paths with a guy named Tim Garrison, who at the time was the studio head at Irrational Games, which made BioShock.
Okay.
And Tim is from Wisconsin, and was most recently COO of Lost Boys in Madison, but helped to start up different studios, work at different studios in Wisconsin, but then left and then came back. And now he even helps support and advise on my company now. And so, you have some of those crossovers. There's so many Midwesterners that had to leave to go do this elsewhere. It was a cool experience to be able to be well, I'm the video game guy. And that was my identity for a long time, that I was the 2K guy.
Sure. I feel like you mentioned it before, where you were looking at the business side of things a little bit with video games. It's so odd that in at least broader sense, video games are still looked on as this kind of side hobby, when you look at how much revenue is generated from it, even compared to movies and other sorts of
7 times larger than the film industry. It's larger than TV, film, and music combined times 2. And it's growing. It's a $340 billion industry that's expected to grow to $580 billion by 2028.
What do you think's behind that growth? Because I'm curious what you think is, because it's already huge and it's going to continue to grow.
So everyone's a gamer, whether they realize it or not, and not everyone has had accessibility to games. What is happening with games is it's becoming more accessible to more people globally, and generationally, things are changing. Gen Z is the first generation to be the number one entertainment activity is video games. And then the AARP just put out a study, a year, maybe 2 years ago, that said that if you want to live longer, play video games. Because this is for millennials, which is, not millennials, baby boomers. Sorry, now I'm calling myself that. Baby boomers, they are the fastest growing generation. Because, they get the cognitive benefits of video games, and what they found is video games are the most social medium. It allows you to maintain connections, to build relationships, and as you get older and you lose some of the connections that are around you, being able to connect with somebody anywhere allows people to get that, those benefits of connection, and it helps you live longer. I love hearing that. And, sometimes, like my wife would see, like I had a couple of friends who I played Destiny with when it first came out, and I never met them, and they lived in Green Bay. But I swear I talked to them every single night, and she's like, aren't you going to go and like meet them or do something? Like, I don't know, I feel like I am meeting them, and I'm playing something and like having a journey together, and it might sound silly to her, but like there was a real social interaction. We just had a guest on that was talking about different generations and like remote work and isolation and different things like that, and maybe I put my foot in my mouth where I'm like, yeah, maybe older generations don't experience socialization that way, but like what you said kind of shines a light on it. Maybe they haven't had the opportunity to kind of do that. Well, and that's where entertainment holistically is changing. You see it. I saw it while I was at Netflix, because I originally joined the film side of Netflix. I was the first hire in the marketing operations team as they were building up that unit. And we made a drastic change, because it used to be the perception of anything that skipped the theaters was like a lower quality movie, right? Like the direct to shelves.
Going to the bin. DVD bin.
And yet we were able to change that perception, because suddenly we put out high quality films that were accessible. And why that change was, if you look at the accessibility of content and you look at the fact that, okay, cool, we have theaters around us, we have one right down the street, we have TVs in our living room. We have a lot of access to what is considered like a premium experience with watching a film. Well, most of the world does not have that. Most of the world, their access to any kind of content is on their phone. And so what Netflix did was allowed for somebody that might not even remotely be close to a movie theater, or couldn't afford to go to a movie theater, to have access to high quality films when they release. And that is what allowed this entire change, where it allowed things to be accessible, and you could see a Sandra Bullock movie the day it came out. You didn't have to wait months for it. So it completely changed the cycle. And so games has more naturally been in that space, but they always had technology hurdles of delivering these high quality games to smaller devices. Well, that's also changing now, where you can do really high quality, amazing PC games on your phone. And so that's only getting better and better and better. So we don't have to rely on, the Candy Crushes of the world, which are low quality games, like good loops, and people enjoy them.
You get your dopamine rush.
But it doesn't have to just be that on mobile these days. Now it can be something of higher quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think of I own a Steam Deck, and I'm just like blown away by the fact that I can play games that, even high quality AAA games. I'm like, wow, this is in my hands. And I never would have thought the high schooler in me that's playing Snake on a Nokia brick phone would be able to have that same technology essentially in a handheld. So you mentioned Netflix, and I'm kind of curious what your experience was like there, because Netflix has a special place in my heart, because as a movie nerd, I'm like the guy that was at Family Video, remembering the boxes, So then when you could order something and it'd show up at your house, with a disc that wasn't at the place, and then to see the evolution of that. And you worked in the game section at Netflix, is that correct? Started that vertical.
Yeah, so I started on the film side, and then after 3 years of helping to build that division on the marketing side of films, they were like, we want to do games. And so naturally, my entire background, and so I was like, so I jumped in. I was like one of the first 10 folks to jump into it, and then I helped lead the launch of the product, and then built out a launch operations team, and then started to build out the beginning of a publishing unit. When I was like, I keep building for other people, I need to go build something for myself, and that's when I ultimately decided to leave Netflix and launch Midwest Games.
So let's hear a little bit about Midwest Games, because you mentioned it before about some people from the Midwest being in games. I always thought, hey, if I ever want to be in games, which, originally I did when I was in high school, I'm like, well, then I got to go to New York, Seattle, somewhere else. You left Netflix to start Midwest Games, talking about rural Green Bay, you know what I mean, or Wisconsin, as a game publishing studio. Like, how did that come about? How did the idea happen, and what's been the reception since?
So the idea happened simply because, like, I see a gap in the market. So if you put a map out and say, okay, where are all the publishers in the world, or in the U.S. to start, and you'll see almost all of them are on the West Coast, a few are in Texas, and there's a couple on the East Coast. There's a huge gap in the middle, and so part of it was just why don't we have one? Because historically we have. Midway Games, best known for Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam, NFL Blitz. Well, that was Chicago. And that's why Midway, right?
Yeah.
You don't always connect the dots.
I didn't connect it until right now. Thanks.
And so Midway was an incredible company. It started as a manufacturing company, then started doing arcade, brought a lot of Japanese games over to the U.S., and then ultimately started to develop their own IP, like Mortal Kombat. And they did extreme things. Like, they'd always take something, like concept of something, and make it like extreme, like Cruising USA. Like,
I mean, NBA racing, Jam is pretty extreme too, right?
NFL Blitz, Mortal Kombat, because there's Street Fighter.
Yeah.
But how could we go even further?
Yes.
Like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
And so so there was a history of success in games. I mean, we've seen it across the board. Dungeons and Dragons was created in Wisconsin, in Lake Geneva. And so Wisconsin and the Midwest have a long history with games. But as location was important in previous eras, people moved. People moved to Seattle, San Francisco, LA, and then a little bit in Austin. And so I saw the history of it, and then I saw what was changing. This was all post-COVID. Migration patterns had changed. I looked up studies from 2020, 2021, 2022. I saw people were moving back. And my bet was that a lot of talent had moved back. And that also went with the fact that Madison has become a game development hub, specifically for live service games. So Raven, which has just celebrated their 35th anniversary, so the Raffle brothers started that 35 years ago. And they were Activision's first acquisition. So ironically, that whole M&A exercise, well, Activision's actual first acquisition was a small studio in Madison, Wisconsin called Raven. And now they are one of the lead developers for Call of Duty. And so Call of Duty is made in Wisconsin. PUBG is made in Wisconsin. Apex Legends, there's a Respawn studio that EA built in Madison, Wisconsin that helps to develop Apex Legends. What was originally Human Head that worked on a game called Prey, then became Roundhouse Studios, is now part of ZeniMax Online. So they work on Elder Scrolls Online. And then we look at Lost Boys, and they are a co-dev studio that helps support a lot of other developers all around the world. They helped with Diablo 4 and New World and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and WWE 2K. And so all of that was partially developed in Madison, Wisconsin. And then you look at Purblue on the mobile side. They worked on Disney Heroes, one of the largest licensed mobile games. And so all of that is in Madison, like a 15-mile radius. And so we have a great development hub, but what we're not good at yet is supporting indie developers to building their games and getting to market. And that's why you need a publisher. And so that kind of inspired me to build a publisher.
So what is like the publishing aspect that you do? Because I look at your history and I see all the marketing, that's behind it, and I'm like, wow, that seems like a good fit for publishing. But what exactly is it that you guys offer? Because I taught coding and we do Game Maker Studio and stuff. And I had kids that were like, I really like this game and I want to do this, you know what I mean? And it wasn't there yet, you know what I mean? But like, what's publishing actually entail, and how do you guys help?
So the most basic for folks that aren't familiar with a publisher, think of a book publisher, Penguin. Like, they're the ones that find authors and help bring them to shelves, like quite literal shelves, but also digital shelves.
Sure.
And they're the ones that make sure that they have marketing around it, and they get the author to do a signing and all of that kind of stuff. Now, take that into the video game space, and it's about 1 billion times more complicated. But you take game developers, and traditional publishing will help fund their development, and then they provide services throughout. So I like to bucket into kind of 4 different areas. One being strategic services like market evaluation, go-to-market strategy, thinking about where you're going, why you're going there, what is the opportunity. Production services, so things like release management, QA, localization, certification, age ratings, and many other things. Marketing, community support, PR support, influencer strategy, paid strategy, and then developer services.
That's a lot.
Yep.
So are you doing all that, or are you guiding them through it?
We are doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then we are also guiding them through
Okay.
things. Like developer services will connect to porting vendors or co-devs or others. So
Sure.
the others will do the work, but
Yeah.
we're the connection point between all of those things. We're doing biz dev deals. We're negotiating with Xbox or PlayStation. We're trying to get featuring. We're trying to exploit in other avenues, like a deal with a TV provider
Yeah.
or a licensing deal with somebody else. And so we're doing all of those things. So it's kind of like an expertise field. Like you either know all of this stuff or you don't.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Like it takes 10 plus years to gain these skills. And there's very few people in the world that have them. There's only about 200 to 300 publishers worldwide.
Sure.
And so there's not many of us. But when you know it, and you have the connections and you can do that. But if you have it within a region, you don't have those skills.
Yeah.
That means any developer in the region then doesn't have that connection point
Sure.
without going to the coast to find that, and it's really competitive to try and get it. I mean, for example, last year there's 19,000 games that came out on Steam
Wow.
alone.
Yeah.
I expect 25,000 this year, and yet there's only about 300 to 400 that succeed
Yeah.
in a larger way every year.
Yeah, it's yeah, and most of those are in backlogs. Half of those are my
Yes.
backlog. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding. But so your unique background has helped facilitate then, Midwest games being able to have that connection because you've worked
Yep.
with these large enterprise kind of publishers in the past, which is really neat to think that people locally are going to have that resource kind of available to them.
Yeah, and we're trying to educate around it. We're trying to provide those services. So we created a whole new model called shadow publishing.
yeah.
That essentially is like a for-hire version of what publishing is. So rather than publishers who take a lot of your rev share and
Yep.
IP rights
Yeah.
or have like long-term strings attached, we are able to essentially take these same services and do it in for hire so they can hire us and we'll provide those same things, but we won't take rev share, we won't take IP rights. So it's completely flipping everything on its head and providing a new path for a
Yeah.
lot of developers.
I mean, that's so refreshing because, reading gaming news and hearing, oh, yeah, our profit was, Microsoft, $1.4 trillion. And then we also cut this many developers
Yes.
and different things like that. So to see that, I almost think there's maybe some animosity with publishing companies and to have
Yeah.
a counter, I hope that's fair to say,
Yeah.
but to have a countermeasure available for smaller studios or larger studios is kind of available is a nice thing to see, especially as a fan of it.
Well, we're going into a new era of games within the industry, and there's a lot of change that's happening. And so what we're seeing is a lot of traditional companies are doubling down on what they're good at. But right now is the time for disruption. There's going to be companies that come in and do something so completely different, and it's going to fit what the consumer wants.
Yeah.
And they're going to blow up into something larger. And then a lot of these legacy companies are going to die out. And some will survive, some
Sure.
will figure it out, some will adjust, but we don't know what it is, and we're kind of in this chaos moment. So what you're seeing with layoffs and everything like that is part of they're trying to plan for some future thing. They're trying to double down on what they're really good
Yeah.
at because there's so much uncertainty in the market that they just don't know.
Yeah.
No one really knows. But a lot of people are trying new things. We're trying this new thing. Is it the potential full solution? Well, no, it's not the full solution. But is it one of them? Maybe, or maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't take hold with a lot of people. Maybe there's something else that actually, we learn from this that we then go down that path. So there's a lot of experimentation right now, which is what's kind of exciting about this moment.
Yeah, well, it's fun to see top games being independent developers, on the Steam charts, and it's always fun to see the comparison. This game costs $250 million, and its player base is 10,000 versus this one, that was made by 2 people.
Yeah, but the key with that,
Yeah.
because we see that a lot, and we should be celebrating
Sure.
those indie successes. But the key here is that they create consistent success, because that is what will actually grow this middle area between the big, essentially quadruple A development scene and the indie scene. There's nothing in the middle right now, and part of it being an indie is like a flash in the pan. Like they might succeed, but do they build upon that success into something larger where it's a sustainable studio over time? Or do they succeed, but they're actually attached to a publisher? Yeah. And the publishers are making 90% or more of the revenue anyways, and then they're actually giving away a lot of their success. And then they're strung up and have to be attached to that publisher moving forward. And then, so that really dampens their ability to create a consistent success. So that what we need is a more sustainable approach, which is why we're trying to do this new model where, okay, they keep their rev share, they keep their IP rights, but they still get these services. But they have to plan into their budgeting to pay for our services, which is a huge challenge.
Yeah, and if they're successful, you're successful.
Exactly, and then they want to keep hiring us. So I think it's a better cycle, but getting people into this new way of thinking and budgeting against it, and them being really responsible for the business end, when for so long the publisher handled all the business and you could just focus on the game development. Like, it's a completely different way of thinking about it. So we need to turn game developers into true entrepreneurs building businesses rather than just putting out games.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's neat, and I'm excited for the future and what that kind of looks like. I have one question for you, though, that's somewhat related to IT. But, there's some issues sometimes in the gaming community with like leaks, stolen content. I mean, there's a huge story right now on stolen content, but things that kind of go out there. And I'm just kind of curious, what are, this usually happens with large studios, so because the spotlight's shined on them. So what can indie developers or smaller developers kind of learn from these things? And is this ever going to stop, or is it just part of gaming? And,
I mean, leaks, there's a lot of arguments around leaks. Do they actually hurt you? They do harm just the idea of, well, I had planned out this like extensive marketing campaign and you ruined it. But who knows? That leak might be the thing that gets you what you need. So I don't worry about leaks as much. Yeah, any kind of, whenever you're operating in a digital space and people can get access to things, leaks are a sign of interest. And so if something is leaking and people are reporting on it, it means people are interested. And if people are interested, that means you have an audience that you can go after. And that's awesome. Like in a time period when it's harder and harder to get an audience. So I try not to worry too much about it. Yeah, you want to have some measures in place. But at the same point, you don't want to dampen creativity.
Sure.
You don't want to have so many rules that people can't do their job. And so, part of my philosophy, and some of it I learned from Netflix, is open systems, transparency. Like, who cares? Yeah. And stuff is going to get leaked at time, but also I trust my employees to make the best decision in the moment for what they're doing. And sometimes that leads to mistakes. And that's okay. Like, I think the more you try to control something like that, the harder it becomes. But from a technical standpoint, absolutely, there's best practices, there's things you should be thinking about and being forward facing towards, okay, well, when you have an audience, are you protected from things? Are you doing things in a somewhat standard way, and just making sure that you're doing some of the basics, and that covers 95+% of most situations. And then if something blows up in a huge way, suddenly people are like, you have a lot of attention on you, and then things go wrong. Okay, but you also then have the money, the success to fight off some of those things, to challenge some of those things.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so as we kind of wrap up here, you've taken that leap into entrepreneurship and starting your own business. IT people sometimes are very analytical, and they're thinking about things, and sometimes they have these great ideas, and they have the skills, but they don't move out of that comfort zone sometimes. So if, let's say, an IT person is sitting on a great idea or something that they want to do, what is the thing, or just anybody, I guess, in general, what's the thing, what advice would you give them to kind of maybe make that leap or make that jump? It's
really tough. You have to have something that helps push you a little bit. I was fortunate that the first step that I did was I shared my idea. I went to Titletown Tech over in Green Bay, across from Lambeau, and I was like, hey, I had this idea. And I had been connected to them for a while via UW Green Bay and some of the stuff that they're doing. I was advising some of their startups around company culture. But I was like, hey, do you guys have a moment? I just have this idea. I just want to throw it past you. And I threw it past him. And that half-hour meeting became a 2-hour meeting. And we like whiteboarded a bunch of things and just got excited about the idea of this idea.
Yeah.
And ultimately that started me down the path. Like that took what was essentially like a little spark and it lit it into something bigger. And they're like, well, come back with it fleshed out. So that sent me down the path of, okay, well, I'm going to go explore what that could be. I'm going to explore about potentially leaving Netflix to like something that no one does.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a hard one.
and do that to go explore. And so the more I went down that path, the more I talked to people about it, the more I was like, okay, there is something here. And so I was testing it all along the way. And that's part of it is especially like I'm like a highly logical, analytical person as well, but part of it being my ADHD and things like that. And I believe in systems and things like that. And I started to see how a system could work and how like me doing this thing, what it could do, the kind of some of the things that are 10 years down the line for what it could benefit. And the more I explored that, the more I was willing to take that risk and lean in. But it is ultimately, are you willing to take a risk? And it is a risk. And what I would say is it does pay off, but maybe not always in the ways you think.
Sure.
And the other thing, if we want to be just analytical, founders that go and found something and succeed, they tend to rise in the corporate ranks. Like I think it's 2.5 to 3 steps above what they were before. But even failed founders do about 1.5 to 2 steps above what they were before. So even failure can lead to you growing in other ways. And so it's worth taking that leap because no matter what, this is what I said to myself when I did it, I'm going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn a heck of a lot, and that's going to make me better.
Yeah.
And that's going to help me grow. That's going to give me more perspective. I now understand why CEOs do some of the things they do because it's easy to criticize. Really, really easy to criticize. And you don't always understand the logic or the things that they're dealing with. But the minute you're sitting in the seat and you're like thinking about, oh, well, I have these stakeholders I have to deal with and I answer to. I have all these other dynamics. And then I have a whole team under me that's looking to me to do things a certain way. And they have their own expectations. And it's really hard to appease everybody.
Sure.
But ultimately, it gives you great perspective, which means like, okay, let's say whatever happens with Midwest Games, I'm working for another company. Well, guess what? I can better work the CEO now because I understand a little bit more of their perspective and some of the dynamics, and I can better support the business, which will help me grow my career over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully that gives somebody the kick, kind of moving forward.
It's well worth it. It's exhausting. It's painful at times. It's a roller coaster, but it's also the most rewarding thing. You get to do so many amazing things. You get to meet amazing people, and you get to put yourself out there. And I've grown more the last 2.5 years than I think I've grown at any point in my career. And so that is the real benefit. Is if you're trying to grow as a person or in your career, like this is a great way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and now as we really wrap up, because this is interesting. I want to keep learning more about it. Midwest Games, what do you guys have? What's coming out soon? What are some of the things that you have going on that people should be looking out for?
So, we're obviously like we launched this whole new arm of our business, but we also have some games that we're supporting legacy-wise. So one of them that's coming up pretty soon is called Tomb Water. It is a Souls-like Western that's like kind of like classic Zelda-like. Incredible title from a single-person studio in Columbus, Ohio. So just amazing. There's a demo out on Steam right now. The Legend of Babu, a studio in Turkey that we work with, that is an incredible kind of action adventure puzzle solver game in the vein of Zelda, but like 3D. But with a giant dog named Babu that's your companion, and you can ride him and like all that stuff, and a big fluffy dog. So we have those 2 games, and then we have a game called Floor is What, which is from a studio, Pyramid Lake Games, which is in Wisconsin. It's a party game, and so we have those 3 that we're working on helping to support to go to market. And then we're doing a million other things, whether it be providing educational resources around what publishing is, how you can best go to market. So we do a program called For the Love of Games that's put together by one of our community folks, Jazz, and she organizes amazing forum to bring topics for game developers so that they can better understand it. And then also, as if I'm not doing enough, I'm the president of the Wisconsin Games Alliance, which is the advocate organization. So we're working on a tax incentive in Wisconsin, the video game tax incentive that we just testified for both the Assembly and the Senate committees, and so that should go to the floor. And then we run MDev as part of that, which is the largest game industry focused event in the Midwest. So that will be November 7th and 8th. So
November 7th and 8th.
Yeah.
Just a couple things.
Just a couple things.
Yeah, if you didn't know, Ben's got a couple things with Midwest Games going on right now. Well, thanks so much for coming by and kind of, sharing your story, but then also sharing what you're doing for the community in the Midwest and all the people that are, looking to entertain us and keep us living longer even, right?
Living longer. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for watching this episode of IT Unplugged. For all things IT, entrepreneurship, business, make sure you check us out on YouTube, subscribe, do all things. Thanks so much.